you like the wine in Cappadocia, right?
Yes. So I came here with no expectation of it being any good,
Right.
and I thought it was. You can find $20 bottles of wine in the United States that aren't as good as that. So
wow.
yeah, yes.
Yeah, that's good. So was there particular wines that you liked the best? Remember
Well,
the
we
names
went
of them?
to one vintner to taste it, and they had it. And I forget the name. I apologize. Actually, you know the name.
Kappa something or other.
Kojaba.
Kojaba. So Kojaba has a line of whites, rosés, and reds. I think red is their mainstay. And then within that, they have a price point line as well. And we tasted almost all of them. The whites were exceptional. One of them in particular, Emus.
Somebody drank mine.
Emus.
Emir. Yeah,
Emir I thought was exceptional. My wife likes rosés a little better than I do. She loved the rosé and bought that.
Yeah.
And their top one, Leon.
Yep.
Leon.
Yeah.
I thought tasted a little young, like it's going to be good, but it wasn't quite there yet.
Yeah,
and so I like the one that was one step below that, which some people thought was too spicy. I thought it had tremendous character.
Was that the single grape?
Yes, it started with an O.
Okuzguzu.
Okay.
The eye of the
Gesundheit.
bull. Yeah. The eye of the bull.
Right.
And they usually mix that with Boazkere, which is the one that they said you feel in the throat.
Right, they have two of them.
Because
That's right.
they're pretty distinctly different, and they're
Yeah.
both kind of on the margin of what people would drink alone.
Yeah,
No one drinks Boazkere alone,
Yeah.
but Okuzguzu.
yeah,
they do.
I liked it a lot. Yeah,
that's excellent.
I'm still enjoying it
Okay,
whenever I
that's
can
great.
find it. Yeah.
So, like, coming on a trip, you travel a lot. Do you typically do trips with guides, or you do it independently? How do you typically travel?
A little of everything. Okay, so we've done a number of family trips where we'll rent a home for a week or 2 weeks,
Okay,
and so
that's
that's one group. I like to dive on liveaboards, so that's kind of a whole nother subset. We do a global volunteering, so that's sort of another subset.
Yeah.
And haven't been that familiar with using specific guides, but last year we used a specific guide in Crete and in Athens in Greece and in Egypt down through Egypt, and
Right.
there's no question that what you get out of it, what you experience, that you would walk by something and that could be the most amazing monument ever and you wouldn't know it.
Right, yeah.
So I'm not slowly, I'm rapidly moving over to that. I'm not a bus guide guy.
Right.
50 people on a bus and haul in. Actually, the first experience I had, we were in Hong Kong and hired to be part of a guided tour in China, and we got off the plane in Shanghai and find out it's my wife and myself and a guide and a driver. Doesn't get any better than that.
And that's the kind of tours that we love to run because,
Yeah.
like you said, the benefit of having that guide.
It doesn't get any better than that.
So the guides that you've had here, what did you think of them so far? I mean, it was Gökçen in Istanbul, and then Rabia in Ephesus, Kunt Mehmet in Cappadocia,
Yeah.
and then now we're with Eunice here.
Well, as you might imagine, because they're individuals, they are very different people, and their background and education and their approach is different. It's very, it's quite a, they're all highly familiar with what they're doing. They're all well versed. Their English is excellent. My personal favorite would be Goshen.
Okay,
And
Istanbul.
in Istanbul, and it's because she takes here's a clear example. She says, "My family," and she treats everyone like like we're a flock of ducks. She's
very much a mother.
right. So there's that humanist, as opposed to, ladies and gentlemen, now we're going to look at this, and that's just a matter of personal taste. But my personal taste, that's what I enjoyed the best. It was a nice touch.
So y'all have had these devices to listen to hear the guide as he's meandering around. You can probably still
I can still hear them, absolutely.
So have you used these before? What do you think? Have they been beneficial? What's the benefits and the negatives?
I think for our trip they're critical,
Okay.
and for a couple reasons. There's always a lot of ambient noise. It could be other tour groups. We were in the Hippodrome in Athens. They were doing street cleaning, which are fairly new. But the wonderful thing about those microphones that the tour guide has is it has a noise canceling feature, so it cancels out the outside noise, and you only focus on the voice, and it also, because this is a fairly independent group, we all tend to wander off in 10 different directions, looking at 10 different things, and yet we're still in earsight of what he's saying. So it provides an independence, it provides a clarity, it dampens out the outside noise. I think it's critical.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Food, what did you think of the food at the restaurants that we've taken you to, and the kinds of food that they serve in Turkey? I mean,
so I've been, I don't know what my expectation was, to be honest with you. I didn't, I have to, I think my expectation that Turkey would be more Middle Eastern than it would be Mediterranean or European, or so I was expecting to land in Istanbul and see Cairo.
Right, and it's definitely not that.
It's definitely not. It's actually, it has a very European feel to it. And so I wasn't familiar with Turkish food either. Truth is, it is Mediterranean. It's very close to Grecian food. Not exactly the same. A little more spices, perhaps, but it's closer to Grecian food than anything, and it's all been excellent. And because this is our fourth city, it's all been a little different. So some of the messes have been the same, but there's always been a little twist or a new taste in every place. And you guys have done, I think, a fabulous job of setting up, a breakfast and a lunch. The lunches have been so fulfilling that the last 4 nights we haven't had dinner. We've just drank. and I'm a foodie. I have to understand that food is a very important thing to me, and when I travel, I think that food is part of a culture of a country or of an area, and so it's important for me to taste those things. But that said, it's been excellent, and has been varied enough that's going to give me a feeling of what's going on. And I hate the fact that in the United States we've bred the taste out of some foods. Tomatoes particularly. They no longer taste like anything other than red, mushy liquid with no real flavor. The tomatoes here are amazing. The oranges are amazing.
Tomatoes. I have tomatoes when I go back to the States, and I think they're not that bad. Of course, the tomatoes here are really, really rich. But
I mean, it's just there's a fullness, not a difference, but a fullness of flavor in the foods here. Like the fresh Radicchio is spicier. There's more to it, and I think that's because we're 50 feet away from where it's grown or picked.
Yeah, that's often the case. I mean, it's just a matter of freshness.
Yeah, I didn't have to truck across the United States and have a 5-day journey to get to me, and so it's or from Mexico or South America even. So, and it's made all the difference. It's been excellent.
That's great. So traveling between the different cities, you've taken flights instead of taking like 10-hour bus rides. What's your thoughts on that? I mean, did you long to see the countryside and say, oh, I wish I would have spent those extra 10 hours on the bus, or did you prefer just getting to the location?
Well, I have a prejudice. My actually preferred way to do it, if I could, would be by train, not an option, because I love
some places it is in Turkey.
So I love the pace of a train because you can kind of see it all and yet you're moving along.
Much more comfortable than
10-hour bus ride would not be my ideal way to spend the time, particularly when we're here for 2 weeks, and if you lose, a day or two going from city to city, that's lost time. So I think the flight is the way to go. I've been surprised, amazed, pleasantly surprised at the airports here. I come from the New York City area, where Joe Biden called LaGuardia a third world airport, and I think he was being generous, and particularly in comparison with the airports here. Not just the new one that just opened, but all the ones we've been into are really beautiful and surprisingly big for the size of their city. So I think that my preferable way, if I could do a 3-hour train ride as opposed to an hour-and-a-half flight or a 7-hour drive, the 3-hour train ride would be my first choice. But it isn't available. It isn't available. Yeah.
So typically on the tour, you're staying at 2 or 3 nights at most all the hotels. How is that speed for you? Is that too fast, too slow as far as going from city to city? Do you wish you had spent longer in any of the cities? I mean, given the fact that you're trying to do 4 major spots in like 11 or 12 days, what's your thoughts about the pace and particularly getting in and out of the hotels and things like that?
I don't know what I didn't see. Right? So I don't know if I'd stay here 4 more days, how much richer the experience would have been. I certainly don't feel rushed. I don't feel, although we have been, I don't feel I've been living out of my suitcase where you're unpacking, packing, taking off, unpacking, packing, taking off. I haven't had that feeling. So my sense is that I think that the tempo is probably about right. Where, again, I don't know what I didn't see here, and I don't know or any of the other cities, but I certainly feel one of the advantages of a guided tour is that they're going to say, all right, if there's 10 things to see in the city, we're going to show you those 10 things. And if you're doing it on your own, you'd probably miss 5 and go to 4 things that, who cares? What am I doing here?
There's a flexibility too on this group.
Yeah. So as far as that with the flexibility element, do you feel like it's been too regimented, too programmed from morning to night, or do you feel?
Well, so this is a 2-week trip, and it may be age related, but there's a little travel fatigue. So we're on day 11 of 17 on the total trip for me, and as an analogy. So remember I said we traveled through Crete and then Athens and Greece, and then Cairo and then down the Nile. So I got tomb burned out.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, the Valley of the Kings, for example, I think has 7 or 8 tombs. I saw 2, and that was fine. And so there's some of that. Although, you know, so I didn't know when we were. What's the name of where all the churches are on the mountain? The open air museum.
Yeah, in Gurame.
Right. So there's 8 or 9 churches, right? I saw 3, and I don't feel I missed by not seeing all of them. So I don't have the compulsion to see and do everything.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Fantastic. That's really helpful.